are the cap for whatever goes on in your store, in your company, in your district, in your household. However excited you are, what you believe is possible, whatever that threshold is.
Now, I have a special guest for you today. She is near and dear to my heart, Miss Anna DiCarlo. She is a wife, a mother, a business owner for the past 12 years, supplying local people and even some not local people with just the perfect service for them. Please welcome Miss Anna DiCarlo.
But I want to do more. Like, there is more to what's happening. Mm-hmm. And that's where the spiritual stuff comes in. And I'm like, I want to do this, but I don't necessarily feel like people should have to be charged to find themselves or to heal. Like, this concept cannot come through in my mind.
I am through and through. I'm a capitalist, and I understand money. And I did not understand when I came to see you, and you were like, "This is a donation based," and it's still to this day, it still perplexes me. I love your heart and your spirit in it. I have trouble making it make sense in my head, but that's why I have my business and you have your business.
And you get out of those slumps by changing your mindset, by changing your thought processes, by not accepting defeat. Yeah, you may be set back. That's okay. There's a million ways to do one thing, a million different ways. That's why I said all modalities are needed. All things are needed in general. It's just whatever's good, better, or best.
You chose to just put one foot in front of the other. You had $200 to get it started. And here you are, a dozen years later, and you're crushing it. I don't remember if it's Huberman or Gary Brecka that said that, it's this pursuit of comfort that is killing people.
Absolutely. Because with uncomfortability comes growth, comes opportunity, comes all these different things. And even in the heart of LBN, facing shutdown or facing whatever, it was, okay, let me navigate this. How do I change it so that way it grabs people again, right? And I'm currently thinking of doing a school type aspect for what I do. And I've had some people like, oh, well, you're going to give away all your secrets. Am I, though? Because it's kind of like a recipe with mom, right? Like, you have the recipe, but when you make it, it doesn't taste like mom made it. Like, I'm not here to gatekeep. I want you to know. I want you to learn. I want you to open up. It stops that mundane every day is the same. It gets you out of that box. It gets you thinking. And then all of a sudden, one thought leads to another thought and leads to another thought. And you go from all of a sudden a negative aspect to a positive one. And then you change your whole life. Like, yeah. That is the point.
Well, I think, so that is a very mature way to look at it. And those that have encouraged you to gatekeep, that is a very immature way to look at it. Because if you look at the people that are doing huge things and are crushing it, whether we're talking about Michael Jordan, whether we're talking about Elon Musk, whoever is the top in their field, they will give away their tips, their tricks, their secrets. They make them public knowledge. Yeah. And it's because they still know that they're going to do it better. Or if you take those tools and you improve their life, it's because they gave you the tools. It's because they were a part of it. Or on the off chance that you become the new master and you are top at whatever that is. Yeah. They were a part of that.
Absolutely. You're changing the world.
So, giving it away, giving that tool away to the next person so that they can improve their life. Again, it kind of goes to what we try to do here. It's bringing somebody else's struggle, somebody else's a message of triumph and how they worked through it and how it wasn't easy and it wasn't handed to them. And maybe the person listening can take just one nugget and help improve their day or their life.
Absolutely. I mean, there's billions of people across the world. You don't think that, by me giving away, all of a sudden I'm going to lose like 50 people. Okay. What's 50 people to another million? Like,
that's right.
It's okay. Everything will be okay. So yeah, I
love it. Now, how long have y'all been married?
Oh, God. I'm really bad at this. He told you to ask me this, didn't he?
He did not. He did not. I promise.
I want to say 16 years.
Okay. All right.
I think we're going on 16 or 17.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't ask me when I got married. Please don't ask.
That's all right. So, along the way, so one of the topics that comes up in a lot of our episodes, is just how important having the right spouse is to overall happiness and success, whether that's in business, whether that's in just in life, whether it's with kids. But I do think you go through seasons in your marriage, and hopefully the majority of them are growth, and that you're getting closer to being the person that you're supposed to be and what you're here to do. And I do think that that's a much healthier way to look at it than somebody that just kind of buries it and doesn't talk about it, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, we want a divorce. Well, I mean, that could probably have been avoided if we would have talked about how this journey was changing and how the future looked and what we dreamed to do and those types of things.
Yeah.
So, I think whether we're talking about communication with soul or whether we're talking about communication with our partner, or sometimes it's just, us saying it out loud, is really us admitting to whatever that next thing is.
Look, and a lot of it goes back to, I don't feel seen, or I don't feel heard, or I don't feel acknowledged. Mm-hmm. So in those moments, even if he's having an adult tantrum, or if I'm having an adult tantrum, right? Because I still have them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I am human. So it'll be one of those, like, are you not feeling seen right now? Talk to me about it. Like, how do I make you feel seen? How do I acknowledge you? And that was the thing too, like, I was really sick, which I'm still getting over. Mm-hmm. I was really sick. I had pneumonia, right? A week before Thanksgiving, even up until now, like, I still have a little bit of fluid in that right lung. Mm-hmm. So he was taking care of me relentlessly. My youngest had it as well. So he was taking care of both of us. I mean, lunch, breakfast, now I wasn't really eating. I ate maybe twice in a week. Yeah. But he was constantly checking on us. What is your temperature? What's your oxygen? Because my oxygen was dropping. At one point, it was 80%. So, like, he's like, I really should take you to the hospital.
Yeah, that's...
But I wouldn't go. So I'm stubborn like that. Mm-hmm. And again,
no.
I have a job to do. They're not going to let me die. It's fine. So, anyway, so afterwards, he had been feeling like all of a sudden when everybody got better, we just kind of started doing our own thing again. Mm-hmm. Emma went back to school. I went back to work. Like, it was just routine. And one day he stopped me. He was like, I feel really not appreciated. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it. I said, you're not feeling seen or acknowledged. I had told you I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time to take care of me and love me and take care of me when I couldn't take care of myself. Mm-hmm. What else do I need to do to make you feel appreciated? And he's like, well, everybody's just off doing their own thing. Like, it's almost like we're not even a family. Like, Belle's doing her own thing, Emma's doing her own thing. And I was like, okay, so you're asking for family time. Is that what you're asking for? And he was like, yeah, I guess I'm asking for family time. I was like, okay, that's different. Mm-hmm. But I've said I was very appreciative. So if you're telling me you still don't feel appreciated, I need to know what your needs are. That's a totally separate thing than, me actually not saying anything and we're just like blowing you off and all these things. So I think that communication is important.
Well, and I think it's both ways. I think it's important that we all acknowledge that we're not mind readers and neither is anybody else.
That part.
Because there are things that our spouses or our kids or whatever, there's an expectation that's not communicated and then nobody can live up to that.
Wait. Did you just say expectation? Mm-hmm. What do I say about expectation?
Oh, I get it. I'm just saying that, but in the world today,
yes,
people will have it painted in their head how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. And
they haven't told anybody that that's how they want it to go. Mm-hmm. And then they'll be upset when it doesn't go that way.
Well, expectation always leads to disappointment. You know that.
Right.
Always. There's a difference between boundaries and expectations. We've had that conversation.
We have. So if you will elaborate on that, because there's somebody out there that needs to hear that today.
So boundary and expectation. Expectation is when, just like you said, you have this thought in your mind, oh, this is going to go this way. Like, let's say, for instance, you have a surprise for somebody. You're like, oh my God, they're going to love it. They're going to flip out when they see it. They're going to scream. They're going to jump. They're going to be so excited. So you give them a present and they open it and they're like, wow, this is so cool. Thanks so much. And all of a sudden you get that blow of, well, didn't you like it? Like, aren't you excited? Right? And you try to get all excited for them. And they're like, yeah, it's great. Thanks so much. Disappointment, like,
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whereas you have a boundary. Boundary would not be gift related, but that was just an easy one to pull out.
Sure.
Boundary would be like, boundary always has action following it. So if something really bothers you, let's say you don't like one-on-one confrontations and people try to get you to do this one-on-one confrontation. You're like, I'm not doing it, right? You follow it with an action. You walk away, you take a breath, you whatever. It always comes with an action because it's your boundary. It's what you're not willing to do under any circumstance or not willing to accept. And so you have an action that precedes it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main difference between expectation and boundary.
Okay. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you excited about?
Oh, God. I'm excited about everything. Like,
So what you're doing now, obviously, so I think we go ahead and talk about the new business.
Do it.
So, a couple times we've talked, while I've come in for Reiki session, because, I'm passionate about business and helping people grow their business and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a couple times you've opened up and been like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, I'm thinking about growing this. And I love that. And in my head, as a capitalist, I'm thinking you want to grow the Belle Naturelle side of the business because that's scalable, right?
Yep.
And because we are two different people and you do a totally different thing for the world, you're like, no. This is the future. I'm going to scale, not scale, that's the wrong word. I'm going to lean heavier into the spiritual side, the Reiki, the healing, lymphatic, all the things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, but in my head, which I think I said this out loud, that's the side of the business that you can't scale. You can't multiply yourself. And you were like, I know, but it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And so we just came up with a new name.
Yes.
And it just, I'm not going to say it came out of thin air, but it was pulled to you. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it down, Unseen Harmony.
Yes.
So what can we expect from Unseen Harmony?
So with Unseen Harmony, I really want to... Well, it's everything unseen. First off, let's talk about the name. Yeah. Because the name is super unique, right? You can't see your lymph system. You can't, when I do acupressure, you can't see the toxins being released and the fresh oxygen and blood coming back in. And for Reiki, you cannot see the energy flowing. Like, you can feel it. You can't see it. Or most people can't anyway. I don't want to say everybody.
Right.
But most people can't. So, it's unseen. But with all those things, you harmonize your body, right? You're doing your lymph system, so you're activating that physical side. You're doing acupressure, so you're getting rid of toxins. You're doing spiritual, which nobody recognizes, but everybody believes in because everybody has faith and believes, in God or a higher power. Or if they're not Christian or they're not Catholic, they're believing in something else. But either way, there's always a higher power, right? So you believe in energy, right? And so with Unseen Harmony and everything being unseen but harmonized, I really do want to grow that aspect of it. I want to be able to, I don't know if donate my time is the correct way to say it, but definitely open it up to more people. I already travel for what I do. I've gone to Alaska for it. I'm going to Las Vegas. I've gone in Florida and done people there. So it's just kind of opening up that gateway and saying, okay, how do we make this work, right? And donation for travel is, You know, if I'm going to a client's house, like I've been to Franklin, I've gone to Murfreesboro, like I've done all those. I've gone to Clarksville, still all donation based. I just say, hey, please keep in mind I'm traveling 2 hours to you. Or, hey, keep in mind I'm traveling this, whatever. But I don't put a minimum on it. I don't do anything. I just, hey, please keep in mind.
Sure.
As far as traveling to different states, I don't know what that looks like yet. I really don't. That's just me being honest.
Sure.
However, I will say this. The right people will come, and I will always be taken care of.
That's right.
Literally. So I keep being pulled to Texas. I mean, I'm talking everywhere. Texas coming up on my phone. I'm not even talking about it out loud. This is probably one of the few times I've said it out loud.
Yeah.
But it's coming up on my phone. It's coming up on everywhere. People I talk to, they're like, oh, yeah, my family's coming in from Texas. I'm like, oh, my God. You know? So I keep being pulled and keep seeing Texas for whatever reason. So I feel like that's my next place to go. But I want to be able to grow that side and help whoever I need to help wherever they're at.
Yeah.
You don't have to be at a certain stage in your life. You just have to realize, oh, there's something more missing from me. Like I need to come back to self. That's really all it is. And I've had clients come to me and they're like, okay, I want to come back to self. And I'm like, So I'll ask a few questions, just kind of like trying to see where they're at.
Sure.
I'm like, no, not me. You're going to need to go see Christy first, right? Or you're going to need to see Michelle first, and then we'll talk. And they're like, well, why can't you see me now? You're a little too unhealed because some of the things I'm going to say are going to trigger you. And I'm not here to hurt. I'm here to help.
That's right.
So I will never see somebody if I don't think they'll benefit from what I have to offer.
Yeah. Well, just a few months ago, and I don't know if you saw the episode with Carissa and Amber from Homefront Builders.
Okay.
So the universe was really trying to correct our path. So I come in that morning, and now keep in mind, Carissa has 5 children, and her husband is in Special Forces, so he's deployed.
Oh, wow.
And so she has a mountain of work. Plus, she owns a business and is a partner in a business. Add to that, Amber is her business partner. She has 2 businesses. And so they come in, and we get 20 minutes in, and Amber is very uncomfortable. It's not her scene. And I felt bad for her. But I looked down 18 minutes in, and we're not recording anymore. And I just bought a brand new memory card. So I was like, no. So we stop. I apologize. I don't know how long we've been not recording. And we go back into it. And we record a little over an hour. And she's better. She's still, it's still uncomfortable for her. And I realize as we're wrapping up, it's not recording anymore.
Nope. Okay.
So they head home, and I find out that both times it recorded 1 minute and 18 seconds.
Interesting.
No idea why. So now I call and I apologize. Ladies, I know you took, the day you came down, all these things. If you're willing to come back down, I will figure out what the problem is, and we will, get this resolved. So 2 weeks later, they come back down. Oh, and to make matters even more or escalated, Carissa was just 6 weeks from having her last baby.
Oh,
so
jeez.
Yeah. But now Carissa's a ball of energy. She is fantastic. And so they agree to come back down in a week or two. So 2 weeks later, they come back in. I've replaced the memory card. It was a defective memory card. And when I tell you she was a different person, it was like daylight and dark. She went from uncomfortable, didn't want to be here, wanted to be a part of it, but wasn't sure what her part was, to she probably talked 60% of the time.
Oh, wow.
And so we talked about, what happened. And she goes, Jim, you don't understand. About 5 minutes after you called to let us know that it didn't record, my transmission went out in my relatively new car. We're stuck on the side of the road, and I lost it. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. I couldn't take it anymore. So many things had lined up that it felt overwhelming. And Carissa had a friend that did Reiki and energy and all those things, but she was in a different state at the time. And so I didn't even know you could do these things remote.
Can we come back to that? I want to talk about that. But yeah, go ahead with your story.
So she puts her on the phone with her, and she breaks down. They go through everything. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 2 weeks later, Amber comes in here, and she is a different person. Mm-hmm. She is upbeat. She is vibrant. She talks 60% of the time. I mean, and it was like the universe was going, no. We're going to roadblock this until the right person is in that seat. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about remote sessions.
Yeah. So virtually it happens the same way. It's just like Wi-Fi on your phone. You trust your Wi-Fi comes across, right? You trust you have Wi-Fi on your computer. Mm-hmm. You're walking around in the middle of a mall or middle of wherever, and your phone still works. Mm-hmm. Energy has no limits. If it's limit, it's because you're limiting it. So either way, energy flows no matter what. And I do virtual sessions. My farthest one is Alaska, but I have them all over. Virginia, I've had, people in Ohio. I have people all over. So how that works is you literally just 2 different ways. One, for me personally, you can just send a picture at the time. I'll be able to connect to you almost instantaneously. Or 2, you can be FaceTime with me and we can go through as if you're just on the bed like a normal session.
Sure.
Some people prefer that because then they feel like they're actually having that moment, right? Mm-hmm. But I've had people send me pictures and they're like, you felt like you were in the room. And I'm like, right, because I was. Like, it's just, energy doesn't have limits. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't. And I mean, that's the law of physics. You can look it up scientifically. I mean, you know what I mean? You just can't stop energy, so
in my head, it is like the X-Men. And like Xavier, he puts on the helmet and all of a sudden he's in the room with the person.
Yeah.
I would have been a little like, I think for me, it needs to be in person. Mm-hmm. But clearly, based on the results that I've seen, it works. And it's one of those things. It works if you are open to it working.
Just open to it. But even if you're like, I don't believe this is not going to work, I guarantee you I will still get something out of it. So It just depends if your body is willing. Not even you consciously, because, conscious works different than subconscious, and that's the thing.
It does. And, one of the things that I find interesting about my sessions is, we walk through the colors that I see and the things that I'm experiencing during the process.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're out there, if you're listening, you just got to go try it for yourself. So we'll do this more in detail in a few minutes, but how does somebody get in touch with you?
So there's several different ways they can get a hold of me. Through my Calendly. I always say it wrong, but that calendar, so it's really long. I should probably think about shortening it now, but it's www.calendly, CALENDLY.com, and then the / and La Belle Naturelle 1.
And it's not La Belle Naturelle.
It's not La Bella. Oh my God, no. It's La Belle Naturelle.
There you go.
Naturelle. But anyway, but the best way to do it is if you have Facebook, which most people have Facebook nowadays, mm-hmm. Go to Facebook, follow La Belle Naturelle storefront, and I post all different things that I'm doing. A lot of times there's products on there, but there's also the link to be able to go and do it. Or you can go to my website, which is probably the easiest one, shoplbn.com. I could have shut that up.
That one's really easy.
Right. So shoplbn.com. And then it says services offered. You can actually get in touch with anybody of our group in that area as well. And so you can get a hold of Michelle, you can get a hold of Christy or me. And again, I don't just do Reiki. I do the lymphatic facial, which helps drains the lymph nodes within the body. And then it helps with your sinuses and, everything's all connected.
Even the shape of your face.
Look, yours was a great picture too.
Well, and I found myself, because I think very selfishly, if time was not a consideration, I would have you do a lymphatic facial on me twice a week. Especially having been sick the last few days, I found myself like I would do what I could remember you doing, and would instantly feel better.
Oh yeah, and they're all connected, and I don't think people give enough appreciation to their lymph system, and that's the only part of your body that you can't pump on your that isn't pumped by something else. It's not pumped by your heart or your muscles or anything. You have to do it yourself. So and it's a great immunity booster. Like, it's amazing. But that, and then acupressure, and then I have the Opus sound bed. That does not travel with me. Just want to be clear, because I have had people ask me, they're like, can you bring that bed with you? I can't. It's over 100 pounds. It stays where it's at and doesn't move.
And it's very expensive.
It is a very expensive machine, but it's totally worth it. So if they can make it out to the shop, great. If they can't, listen, we got other modes. It's fine. But yeah, so.
Now, and you're adding lymphatic massage. Is that correct?
So not lymphatic massage. It's just going to be lymphatic drainage for the body.
Okay.
And there's a difference between that, because with massaging, it's, you have to be a massage therapist, and there's things that go into that. And lymphatic drainage is a little bit different. You can use tools just like I use for your face, but I am currently training for that, and I'll be working with Michelle when I finally get done with that. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, in her clinic. So it'll be interesting.
Well, and I think that it's so, as somebody, to clear up something we talked about a little bit ago, you said somebody had a prejudice, if that's what we want to call it, towards Michelle's clinic because it was part of her house.
Yeah. And
I can tell you, I've gone to several places for ozone therapy. Some that are in business parks, some that are in standalone buildings, and at the end of the day, it's about the practitioner and what they do and how they do it. And I'm glad she's there.
Yeah. And her clinic's really, it's literally set up like a clinic. So, she's got all the approvals that she needs for her. She's got everything. And it's that, again, that mindset. Well, we're scared of things that we don't know or don't understand, right? But if you took a moment to try to understand it versus just jump at being judgmental or really using that side of you that's, I'm scared, that egotistical side, right? Oh, yeah. The ego is only there to protect you and keep you safe. So as soon as something feels weird and off, our ego steps in and go, I don't know about that, right? But we really don't have a reason. So when I asked that one client, what's the difference between a doctor's office and hers? She's licensed. She didn't really have an answer for me, because then it made her think like, oh, well, crap. Like, I don't know. Yeah. She's got the licensing for it. So what really makes a difference?
And it really does look like a doctor's office when you walk in.
Oh, yeah, it does.
The only difference, in my opinion, is you don't sit in a waiting room for 45 minutes past your time slot while you're waiting for them in some undisclosed location.
Yeah. Me and my husband always have a joke. Whenever they go to, if they ever go to the pediatrician, which is few and far between, but he'll be like, okay, in the first waiting room, and he'll text me, in the second waiting room, because, you always sit there for another 45 minutes in the real room.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But here, you definitely don't have that at Michelle's.
That's right. So. What do you think is the biggest misconception about the natural products?
Oh, geez. Okay. That's a good question. So, on the natural product realm, if it's in a store, it has to have a chemical, and a lot of people don't realize that. And so if you look laws, and of course they may have changed now, but I'm speaking on when I did the research, it was 75% of the product had to be natural to be called natural. And then you could use literally the worst chemical you could possibly put on your body for the rest of it. For organic, I think it was 93 or 94% had to be natural, and the rest could be whatever you wanted. Right? So you put it in that aspect. You could have the most cancer-causing substance in there, but if you had 70% of it natural, it's totally fine. Right? So I think the biggest misconception is people don't actually do research. And I know that's not necessarily a misconception, But if you were to sit and actually look at the ingredients, and that's the thing, I have full disclosure. So you go on my site and you look at the ingredients, that's what you get. There's no, oh yes, we're going to, we're adding this and this and that. Sometimes they change because product availability or, organic, getting the product to me is sometimes hard, especially after COVID. That was hard.
Sure.
I had to do what I could in the best, whatever. But I get every manufacturing sheet, so I know how it's made and know how it's processed. People don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I think no matter what, good, better, best, there's always something that there's going to be better for. Do your research. You can afford what you can afford, but no matter what, do your research. I had a client one time, they're like, do you make tallow soap? Because, tallow is a new big thing, just like goat's milk soap, right? So like, do you make tallow soap? Yes, because you need a fat in your soap.
As the binder.
Yeah. And I was like, and so I don't use palm oil, so that's bad for the environment. It's all these things. It's a cheap version, whatever. And I was like, so yes, my soap is made with tallow. Yeah, but like just tallow. No, because then it would be so hard that you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. You have to have, you're moisturizing your oils, your whatever, and we're kind of getting off base here, but your butters, your oils, you need all that to make the soap so that way it's the correct pH balance for your skin, which is a 7 or 8 pH. And they're like, well, I don't know. I get this tallow soap from, wherever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, there's more to it than that. It's not just tallow. It's explaining those things. The marketing behind it is, oh, well, it's tallow soap. Okay. Well, you can't, that doesn't, it doesn't compute. It can't just be that, right? So it's like, how much information are we actually disclosing to people? How much research are you actually doing? And when you're requesting something, if somebody has more information to give it, just listen for a second, And I think that goes with everything. With Reiki, everybody's Reiki is different. You will never go to one practitioner that's always the same, right? You go to me, it's going to be different than Michelle. If you go to Michelle, it's going to be different than the next Reiki person. Everybody is different in what they do. Do what you're pulled to do, but the expectation part of it is you will always be disappointed when you're looking for a certain something and not getting the result that you want.
Yeah.
The open-mindedness, I think, is the biggest thing.
I love it. How much of yours ends up being education?
To my clients?
Yeah.
Like giving education to them?
Well, I think, and we've talked about a lot of different things. Like yesterday, you actually text, and I was pulling into Libertas Cryo to try to get rid of some of the funk that I had going on with getting sick. And, I would say 80% of what they do is educate people because they don't understand the services that they offer and what the benefits are and those types of things. So whether we're talking about Reiki, lymphatic, or the natural products, how much of your time do you think you spend educating people?
A lot of time.
Yeah.
For first-time Reiki clients, I normally schedule them for 2-hour sessions because the first section of it is literally just explaining what I'm doing. It's a new concept, and I want to make sure everybody's clear, and that there's no expectations held there, right? It works best when you're open-minded and just, okay, let's go. But I think that across the board, education or the lack of education has limited so many people in their thought process that they just go wherever they need to go or being told to go for that moment, and then they regret their decision. And it's like, no, you still had a choice, and you chose wrong, so how do we fix it, right?
Make another choice.
Absolutely. You make a different choice. So I say, yeah, go with whatever you want to go to, whatever you're pulled with. Just do your research. Be open to what people have to say. You can still say no.
Yeah.
After a whole explanation, you still be like, don't think that's for me. Cool. Peace out. Send somebody else my way.
Well, and so on that same note.
Yeah.
So 2 times ago, I did the sound bed.
Yeah.
And had done it several times before. Always had great experiences. And this one track I did not jive with it.
Nope. You sure didn't.
And even so much so that when I got up, you were like, oh no, like what happened? And I was like, it was rough. And you were like, why didn't you tell me to stop it? And I was like, because I kept thinking that maybe I was supposed to work through this or that there was a purpose for it. And you were like, you can't end that way. So you put on a different track, and I left right as rain. But you were like, why didn't you tell me to stop it? And I was like, I was just going with it. And you were like, well, then you were choosing to keep going with it.
Yeah.
And you were exactly right.
Yeah.
But I think that's in all parts of our life. Like we can choose, like we always have a choice, even when we don't feel like we have a choice. Let's just say it is something that you have to go through. We'll speed up. Like,
Okay, wait a minute. We're not just going to push through. Wait. Hold on, let me back you up. So I agree with you. Make a different choice. The push through aspect, now wait, that's going to get a lot of people in trouble, okay? Pushing through, we forget steps. So we don't acknowledge the emotions that we're going through, all the things. Here's the thing. Even if you don't like a choice, it doesn't make it less of a choice. Right?
oh yeah.
So just like my husband, well, we have bills to pay and we have this and blah, blah, blah. Right. Your other choice is you get a different job in a way that you want to live and how you want your life to look, and it will happen for you. Right? And I always go back to this was years ago, but when COVID was in full swing. Everybody was losing their jobs, right? My husband, there was like 200 people. He was one of the last ones out of all those people to lose his job because they loved him that much. But I knew it was coming, not because it was COVID, but because of his actions. Every day, all his thoughts were always negative. Every day, he had something that was not right? And I'm like, why don't you quit? Why don't you quit? He wouldn't quit. And I said, you're going to lose your job. Like, you're going to lose your job. And he's like, why would I lose my job? I said, because of how you're acting. You're already putting out there that you don't want it, right? So when he lost his job, I wasn't angry. I wasn't saddened. I knew it was coming. And I said, okay, probably not the best thing I should have said, but I'm still human. I was like, told you so. Like, I told you this was coming. And so it happened right before Thanksgiving. So he had no job for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we were solely relying on my income I was making through the business, and we were fine, always taken care of, like I said. And he got the job that he has now, and I tell him the same thing. I'm like, your other option is to find a job that you want, and blah blah blah. You are choosing to stay where you are. Just because you don't like the choice doesn't make it less of one.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable. People don't want to talk about it or realize it.
Right. But, I mean, that's how we deal with things.
That's how some people may deal with it. That's not how I deal with it.
Well, no, I'm saying if we have to address it, if we're going to deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
And so putting it in the corner and not looking at it doesn't make it any less real.
Right, exactly. And that's the same thing with choices, right? So that's where I sit with that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, to that same point.
Yeah.
Because I used to, and I know you already know this. So I'm one of those people that has a hard time drawing that line between who I am and what I do. I'm getting better at it.
We talk about that.
I'm getting better at it.
Yes.
But that's how I used to size things up. Not that I don't still, but that line of between who I am and what I do, that's not as blurry as it used to be. But I used to spend an absorbent amount of time with my team. I trained every person, company-wide, in person, every single month. And most people thought I was crazy for that. But the reason I did it is more often than not, I had people that took what I gave them and built upon it. And so I always liken it to if you were the first caveman or cavewoman that discovered fire, and you brought fire to a neighboring, group, and they let it go out. And so the next time you came by, you had to give them fire again, and you had to give them fire again. It wears on you. But if you came by and they had shared fire with more people because you had shared fire with them, well, then it fills your well. And now you're fired up again because you've seen what they've done with it. And I think that in that same spirit, it's you want to help people. so that then they can go and make their life better and then help more people. All right, so somebody out there right now is thinking about starting a business.
Uh-huh.
They've done their research. They've overanalyzed this thing. They've got more than $200 or they've got less than $200, but they keep finding excuses as to why they don't do it. What is the best advice you can possibly give them?
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
There you go.
If you've got the money, you've got the time. And I had a discussion about, it wasn't about business or starting business or anything, but I had a client one time who was like explaining to me why they don't do things. He was like, I've had all these thoughts of all these different businesses I could start, and I haven't yet. And I said, well, why not? He said, because I'm caution. Like I use extreme caution, right? And I said, oh, you mean you're fearful? And he goes, no, I'm not fearful. I'm cautious. And I said, what's the difference? And he just stares at me. He goes, well, I don't know. Like, it's not that I wouldn't do it. And I said, well, you haven't done it. Right? So we had this conversation of going back and forth. And the basis is the body doesn't know the difference between caution and fear. Mm-hmm. It just knows that it's a lower frequency and you don't want to do it. Right? Or you're worried to do it. Or whatever label that you want to label it as, it's still fear. It's still not wanting to because you're scared you're going to fail. And that's what I tell people. Like, what is it really? Like, think about to yourself, is it the thought of failing? Okay, what's the worst that could happen? You fail and what? Have to start over again? Have to rethink your strategy? Have to be creative? Like, what is the worst thing that could happen, right? And then go from there. If you don't want to take out a loan, do it from scratch if you can. You know what I mean? But why wouldn't you?
Well, I think it just depends on how bad you want it and what you're willing to give up in order to do it.
Whoa. I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay, stop me.
Self-sacrifice, right? Why do we have to give up anything to have something? Why is that the thought process?
Well, so I'll give you my example,
okay,
and you break it down from there.
Yeah.
So when I started this business,
mm-hmm.
so I went from I was the guy that was all in. I had been in a business for 4,321 days
mm-hmm.
until I decided no more, and then the business sold just within 45 days after I left, and so I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And so I sold 2 cars because I told my wife, I said, I'm going to start a business, and that's scary. It's going to cost some money, but I'm not going to use a single penny out of our savings. And so I sold 2 cars, and she encouraged me not to. She said, you've already said that one of those cars you can't replace. And sure enough, not something I could replace. And I said, it's worth more to me to sacrifice that, to say I'm giving this up in order to get this. But the business that I saw in the future, which has evolved, it's not as I thought it was going to be. But this podcast is a part of that. But I believed more in that than the desire to have those 2 cars. And I wouldn't go back and I wouldn't do anything different. But I wanted her to know that I was serious about it. And giving up the 2 cars told her how serious I was about it.
Okay. I don't think giving up the 2 cars was this material objects.
Sure.
The way that you said it before made it sound like we had to give up a piece of ourselves or give up something of ourselves. That's where I'm like, we're not giving up anything of ourselves to be able to have a materialistic thing. That's not, in my opinion, what God, what higher power, what universe, that's not the energy I want to send out personally, right? Of let me be less than to get this that I want. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to do that. Therefore, I won't. I will do what I can within my power, but I will not give a piece of myself. And hearing your example is completely understandable. But just for other people that may be listening, we don't I don't give up myself in order to get what I want, that will never be a thing. I will never self-sacrifice myself like I did before to get the things that I want. That's a no-go for me.
Well, I think that's part of healing.
Absolutely.
Is walking through that process to understand that in order to become who you're supposed to be, it takes all of you. Mm-hmm. You can't give up. You can't slice part of you away and get there.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people think they can, but yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's just like people who work for promotions, right? They're like, oh, I really want this promotion, so I'm going to work extra hours and I'm going to put all this time into. That's self-sacrificing. That's what I mean by that, right? Like, you're not technically slivering off any piece of you, but at the same token, you're working those longer hours, you're making extra commitments, you're doing all these things, you're wearing yourself down to be able to show that you can do it. And in your scenario, you know, if this was a session, I'd be like, why did you need the validation of your wife? Right? If you knew that it was going to succeed and no matter what, why are you looking for exterior? It's your wife, and I love her to death.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She is amazing. But that's where I would question if we were in a session, hey, and we're not, so you don't have to answer.
Right.
But it's, hey, why did you feel, if you knew and you trusted self, if you truly trusted self, you didn't have to do something to try to prove it to anybody else. We don't have to jade here, which is judgment, argue, defend, explain ourselves. Right? So we don't have to do any of that for anybody else except for ourselves. So if you truly trusted self, in that moment you would have been like, I'm doing this, I hope you can support me. And you would have done it.
Yeah.
Not having to show proof, explain, defend yourself, that how serious you would have been. She would have seen the end. She would have seen where you are now. She would still be there. She's amazing.
Yeah. And she is. She is absolutely fantastic. So we're coming into 2025.
Yep.
And, you know, I hate these, but plenty of people out there make resolutions.
I do not.
So let's not call it a resolution.
Okay.
But somebody somewhere needs to make a decision.
Yeah.
They've been putting a decision off, or they've been ignoring the thing that they needed to address. What would you say is the most powerful advice you could give somebody that needs to make a decision today?
I think it goes back to taking a pause in whatever you're doing. And if it's this decision on whether to move forward on something, I would ask self, just yourself, because it doesn't matter who else knows, but ask yourself why I do want to do it and why I don't want to do it. And a lot of people aren't in touch with themselves to understand, I think, that full process. So sometimes writing a page of positives and negatives, right? Being able to physically see those, it would, I have more positives than negatives. Let's go ahead and do it. But I think really it just comes down to practicing the pause and really examining yourself on why you didn't take the leap, why you're not starting that new venture. Are you afraid? Why are you afraid? Is it a thought process? What is it? You know what I mean? And if it's the thought of failure, who are you failing? Who are you failing now if you don't try? You know what I mean? And just walking through those steps. That would be my advice to somebody else. I had a client one time, they're like, I need you to make a notebook so that way I can flip and say, oh, well, I need, do I need to make the decision? Yes. And flip to yes. What do I need? One of those turn books.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I need a pocket sized.
That's a new product.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll be in.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. No, the unseen harmony.
Well, okay. All right. Well, but I can see that one, though. But you can't necessarily see my decision. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of both.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Unseen Harmony, sold by Belle Naturelle.
There you go.
There you go.
Like it.
Okay. All right. How do they find you online? How do they buy from you? How do they do all the things?
Yeah. Super simple. Just go to www.shoplbn.com and you can see all the products, you can see all the services offered, and you can get a hold of all the mastermind group that I work with as well.
And if somebody, like, give me an idea of what all the products are. What kind of products do you sell?
Literally head to toe, everything. From babies, pregnant moms, men, children. I have it all. I even have a pet section, but it's not technically on the site. But yeah, I make it all. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. I'm more than willing to work with anybody on what that looks like.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Miss Anna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And team, so if you have not experienced Reiki, if you've not had a lymphatic drainage, whether it's a facial or a session, if you are tired of having putting soaps and other products on your skin that aggravate it, that have all types of chemicals in it, you need to take a look. Go to www.shoplbn.com and check out what Miss Anna has to offer. If you're scared about, maybe making a decision, you need to walk through that. You need to work through the pros and cons, and just understand that your future self depends on the decisions that you choose to make today. And you not choosing to make a decision is still choosing to make a decision. So again, check out Miss Anna's stuff, shoplbn.com. And thank you so much for tuning in with us. Again, thanks so much to the Hit Lab creative team here in Nashville, Tennessee, Sense Custom Development, and Charge Forward Solutions. Until next time, continue to charge forward. Team, is Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward podcast. I just want to tell you, I love you. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you for subscribing and sharing the Charge Forward podcast with people you know and you love, because that's what we're here for. We are here to share the amazing stories, the things that people have been through, the ways that they were able to improve their life, so that you can take little nuggets from theirs and help improve your story and be better tomorrow than you were today. I hope that this is the tool you needed at the right time, and that you find value in the amazing guests that we bring each and every week. Thanks so much, and don't forget, new episodes drop every Thursday.